Most people think the hardest part of money is getting rich. It isn't. The real challenge is something much more brutal. It's not becoming poor and not staying poor. Because poverty is not just about money. Poverty behaves more like gravity. And if you've ever felt like you're working harder every year, but somehow your life never moves forward, you're probably feeling that gravity. You work more hours. You try to save. You try to climb out. Then something happens. The car breaks. The rent increases. An unexpected bill appears. And suddenly you're right back where you started. Sometimes even worse than before. Why does that happen? Why do millions of hardworking people never escape this cycle? To understand that, we need to talk about rocket science. When a rocket tries to leave Earth, it has to reach a very specific speed. Scientists call this escape velocity. If the rocket uses 99% of the fuel it needs but doesn't reach that speed, it doesn't get 99% of the way to the moon. It falls right back to Earth. And that's exactly what poverty feels like. You climb halfway out of the hole, and gravity pulls you back down. The reason this happens is because poverty isn't just a situation. It's a system of invisible loops. 5 loops to be exact. And until you understand them, you're fighting a battle you can't see. So let's break them down. The first loop is something I call the scarcity tax. Most people think that if someone is poor, it's because they don't have enough money.
But the truth is stranger than that.
When you're poor, everything actually becomes more expensive. There's a famous concept called the boots theory. A wealthy person buys a pair of boots for $50. Those boots last 10 years. So the cost is about $5 per year. A poor person can't afford $50. They only have 10. So they buy the cheap boots. But those boots fall apart every year. Over 10 years, they spend $100. Twice as much money. For worse results. And this pattern appears everywhere. When you're poor, you can't buy groceries in bulk, so food costs more. You can't afford preventive health care, so medical bills become emergencies. You can't absorb unexpected expenses, so you pay late fees, overdraft fees, and high interest. The system charges a penalty for having no margin. But the most dangerous part isn't the money. It's what happens to your brain. When financial stress dominates your life, your mental bandwidth collapses. Studies from Harvard show that constant money stress can reduce cognitive performance by about 13 IQ points. That's the equivalent of trying to plan your financial future while running on no sleep. Your brain enters survival mode. You stop thinking about 5 years from now. You start worrying about 5 hours from now. And that's where the poverty loop begins. Low resources create stress. Stress creates short-term thinking. Short-term thinking creates bad financial decisions. Bad decisions create even fewer resources. And the cycle repeats. So the first step to breaking the poverty trap is not investing. It's not building a business. It's much simpler than that. You build a buffer. $500, $1,000. Something that prevents small disasters from becoming financial earthquakes. Because once you have a buffer, something incredible happens. Your brain calms down. You stop reacting to problems. And you start planning again. But even if you fix that, another trap appears. The second loop is far more emotional. I call it the dopamine trap. You've probably heard people say things like, if someone is struggling financially, why do they buy expensive shoes? Why do they upgrade their phone? Why do they eat out? From the outside, it looks irrational. But inside the brain, it makes perfect sense. Living with financial stress is exhausting. Your stress hormones are constantly elevated. Your brain is desperate for relief. So when you buy something new, your brain releases dopamine. For a brief moment, the stress disappears. You feel successful. You feel in control. You feel like you're winning. But there's a catch. The dopamine lasts 20 minutes. The debt lasts 20 years. And slowly, without realizing it, spending becomes emotional medication. Not a financial decision, a coping mechanism. This is one of the biggest differences between wealthy and struggling households. Many people see money as something to spend. Wealthy people see money as something to deploy. An asset generates income. A liability consumes income. And until that shift happens, the cycle continues. But even if you control spending, there's another trap waiting. The third loop is the one that makes people exhausted. I call it the linear income trap. Most people grow up believing a simple equation: work more hours, earn more money. But there's a problem with that equation. Time is limited. You only have 24 hours per day, which means if your income depends entirely on your time, there's always a ceiling. But your expenses don't have a ceiling. Rent rises, healthcare rises, food rises, and inflation slowly erodes your purchasing power. So even when you work harder, you feel like you're running on a treadmill, because in reality, you are. The only way to break that ceiling is to stop selling time and start selling value. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is something called skill stacking. Instead of trying to become the best in the world at one thing, you combine multiple skills. Maybe you understand marketing and design. Maybe you understand construction and sales. Maybe you understand technology and finance. When those skills combine, your value multiplies. Because markets reward rarity, not effort. But even if you upgrade your skills, there's another invisible force pulling people back. The fourth loop is something many people underestimate. It's called social gravity. Human beings copy the behavior of the people around them, their beliefs, their expectations, their habits. If everyone around you believes success is impossible, that belief becomes normal. If everyone around you spends every paycheck, that behavior becomes normal. Not because you're weak, because your brain is wired to imitate the tribe. And this creates something powerful. If one person in the group tries to escape, the group often pulls them back. Not out of cruelty, but out of fear. Because your progress reminds them of their own limitations. Escaping this gravity doesn't mean abandoning people. It means protecting your environment, the books you read, the podcasts you listen to, the ideas you allow into your mind. Because in the modern world, your environment is not just physical. You can choose the voices that shape your thinking. And once that environment changes, your behavior starts changing too. But the final loop is the one that determines everything. The fifth and final force is compound interest. For people trapped in the poverty loop, compound interest works against them. Credit cards, loans, debt growing quietly in the background. Every day the math moves in the wrong direction. But when that direction flips, something extraordinary happens. Your money begins working for you. Assets grow, investments compound, and the snowball slowly begins to build. At first it looks small, almost meaningless, but compound growth accelerates over time. And eventually something remarkable happens. Your assets start producing income. Income that doesn't require your time. That moment is called financial escape velocity. The moment when survival no longer depends on selling your hours. And when that happens, the gravity disappears. Suddenly you have options.
Time,
Freedom.
control.
So if we step back, the poverty loop becomes clearer. The scarcity tax drains your resources. The dopamine trap drains your discipline. The linear income trap drains your time. Social gravity drains your ambition. And compound interest decides your direction. But here's the most important truth. None of these forces are permanent. They are powerful, but they are predictable. And once you understand the physics of poverty, you can finally start designing a path around it. Because escaping poverty is not about luck. It's about reaching escape velocity. And once you reach orbit, everything changes.